This time, there were unusually strong earthquakes. The Tiber pulled down the bridge and flooded the city for 7 days. There was a partial eclipse of the sun, and famine developed.
Ancient historians report that natural disasters predicted political ones, and indeed, the emperor's difficulties seemed to be mounting fast. In the year 6, soldiers, the backbone of the empire, refused to re-enlist without a pay raise. New funds had to be found. Then, fire swept parts of the capital. A reluctant Augustus turned to taxation. It was a dangerous tactic, and the emperor knew it. Fearing a coup, Augustus dispersed potential enemies. He recessed the courts and disbanded the Senate. He even dismissed his own retinue. Still, Rome remained on edge.
The mob, distressed by the famine and the taxes after the fire, were unsettled. They openly discussed rebellion. When night fell, they hung seditious posters.
The crisis passed, but soon a new and even greater disaster battered the aging Augustus. It began in Germany, a land of fiercely independent tribes, and to the Roman eye, rugged barbarism. The region had been recently conquered, and Roman customs were taking root, or so they thought.
The barbarians had not forgotten their ancient traditions, their free way of life, or the power of arms. But as long as they were assimilated slowly, they did not realize they were changing and did not resist Roman influence.
That peaceful evolution stopped, however, in the year 9, the year an arrogant young general called Quintilius Varus became commander of the Rhine army and brought an iron fist to the province.
He forced more drastic change on the barbarians, and among other things, he dealt with them as if they were slaves of the Romans, and exacted money as if they were his subjects.
Varus disastrously miscalculated the extent of Roman control and misjudged German compliance. A trusted German chieftain organized a full-scale revolt and lured Varus's troops into a trap, deep in unfamiliar terrain.
The mountains were rocky and cut with ravines. The trees were dense and tall, so that the Romans were struggling to make progress. Rain began to fall in sheets, and a heavy wind scattered their numbers. The ground became slippery around the tree trunks and roots. While the Romans were dealing with these troubles, the barbarians surrounded them, and suddenly coming from everywhere. First, they hurled missiles from afar. Then, since no one was fighting back and many were wounded, the barbarians came ever closer, and the Romans were unable to retaliate. They kept crashing into each other in the trees. They could not grip their arrows or javelins. The rain forced the weapons from their hands. Even their sodden shields were useless. And so, every man and every horse was slaughtered.
Three legions were massacred, a tenth of Rome's army. Augustus, his biographer reports, was traumatized.
They say he was so disturbed that for several months he let his hair and beard grow, and would sometimes bash his head on doors and cry out, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions."
The disaster in Germany underscored a stark reality. The empire was born of violence, and to violence it ever threatened to return. The emperor was in no mood for leniency.
Believe me, love's climax of pleasure should not be rushed, but savored. And when you reach those places your woman loves to have touched, don't let shame get in the way. Don't back off. You'll see her eyes shine with a trembling light, as when the sun glitters on rippling water. She'll moan and murmur sweet words just right for the game. But don't outpace your mistress, or let her leave you in the dust. Rush to the finish line in unison. When man and woman collapse together, they both win. That's the greatest prize.
Ovid's sizzling words gripped Rome when they were first published, but a decade later they would return to haunt him. For the patience of the Emperor Augustus had reached its lowest point. Beleaguered, he saw plots in every corner, anarchy in every act of disobedience. Blaming the subversive book, Augustus banished Ovid from Rome.
Hello, are you there? If so, indulge these verses of mine. They don't come from my garden or that old couch I used to sprawl on. Whoever you are, and in whatever parlor, bedroom, or study, I have been writing on decks, propped up against bulkheads.
The poet was sent to an untamed backwater at the edges of the empire on the shores of the Black Sea. For Ovid, the ultimate urban sophisticate, no punishment could have been harsher. His roguish aplomb crumbled to anguish.
When night falls here, I think of that other night, when I was cast out into the endless gloom. We managed to laugh once or twice, as my wife found in some old trunk odd pieces of clothing. This might be the thing this season, the new Romanian mode. And just as abruptly, our peal of laughter would catch and tear into tears. And we held each other. My wife sobbed at the hearth. What could I say? I took the first step with which all journeys begin, but could not take the second. I was barely able to breathe. I set forth again. Behind me, she fell rolling onto the floor. Her hair swept into the hearth, stirring up the dust and ashes. I heard her call my name. I thought I had survived the worst. What could be worse? But my wife arose, pursued me, held on to me, weeping. Servants pulled her away. Whatever worth there was in me died there.
Ovid was sure his talents would bring him home. He wrote constantly, and as he waited, he sought refuge in a remote frontier town. When the temperatures dropped, Ovid wrote, wine froze in its vessels, the river in its banks. Across the ice thundered hostile horsemen, plundering and killing. It was a brutal life, Ovid wrote home from exile, a side of the empire that few Romans ever saw.
Beyond these rickety walls, there's no safety. And inside, it's hardly better. Barbarians live in most of the houses. Even if you're not afraid of them, you'll despise their long hair and clothes made of animal skins. They all do business in their common language. I have to communicate with gestures. I am understood by no one, and the stupid peasants insult my Latin words. They heckle me to my face and mock my exile.
Writing for this audience, Ovid complained, was like dancing in the dark. As the years passed, Ovid shriveled into a bony old man. He fell ill. Contrition replaced his former bravado.
Oh, I repent, I repent. If anyone as wretched as I can be believed, I do repent. I am tortured by my deed.
Ovid, however, never got an answer to his pleas, and would never get a reprieve. As he approached death, he became sadly resigned to his fate.
Look at me. I yearn for my country, my home, and for you. I've lost everything that I once had. But I still have my talent. Emperors have no jurisdiction over that. My fame will survive, even after I am gone. And as long as Rome dominates the world, I will be read.
9 years into his exile, Ovid died. He outlived Augustus, but he had bent to the emperor's will. At the start of the emperor's public life, Augustus had won the wars engulfing Rome. By the end, he had won the peace, and men like Ovid paid the price. In the years ahead, when lesser men would rule Rome, that price would rise higher still.